Art and secrets have always walked hand in hand since we first started drawing in caves. Some secrets are simply hidden because of our lack of information, while others are kept in the shadows for a specific reason. So let's take a closer look, and even a step back, as we will reveal unusual conspiracies behind famous artworks, from the endless secrets hidden within the strokes of the Mona Lisa, to the secret brain anatomy found in the Sistine Chapel. Get ready, because this ride is intense and finishes with the connection of art, the FBI, and the CIA. Let's go. Number 1. Who does the Mona Lisa represent? We can argue that the Mona Lisa is the most famous among Leonardo da Vinci's paintings for many reasons, including the secrets within the painting popularized in the 2000s through both the book and the movie The Da Vinci Code. But the theory that we will be discussing today is a much more recent take that combines both established historical facts of Leonardo da Vinci and modern discoveries on the painting itself. In 2015, Pavel Floresco, an art researcher who has published various books and studies on Leonardo da Vinci himself, set out to confirm Sigmund Freud's hypothesis on who the person in the painting represents. In his book, Leonardo da Vinci and a Memory of His Childhood, published in 1910, Sigmund Freud believed that the mysterious smile of the lady in the painting is da Vinci's attempt to recreate a smile as equally mysterious to him, the smile of his mother, Caterina, whom he had been separated with since childhood. To do so, Pavel pointed out that Leonardo da Vinci's intentional usage of the number 2 within and outside of the painting itself becomes a key to unlocking a secret within this work. As you can see yourself, 2 eyes and 2 nostrils. Wait, actually, it's much deeper than that. Pavel first looked within the painting. When you take a closer look at the painting, the number 2 kept appearing even in less noticeable placements, such as the Mona Lisa's 2 complete fingers, or in the backgrounds where the road of the left side forms the number 2, the 2 column bases in the edge of the painting, or the bridge that connects 2 edges. Pavel then turned to details surrounding the creation of the painting itself, and the life of the mastermind behind it. To do this, Pavel used a deciphering method where alphabetical letters have a numerical value that they represent based on their order in the alphabet. The alphabet system chosen by Pavel is of the Italian alphabet system without foreign influences such as the letters J, K, W, X, and Y. This alphabet system was chosen because Da Vinci himself did not speak Latin that well, despite it being the common language used by the thinkers of his time. So the numerical value of the Italian alphabet would be A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, D is 4, E is 5, F is 6, G is 7, H 8, I 9, L 10, M 11, N 12, O 13, P 14, Q 15, R 16, S is 17, T is 18, U equals 19, V is 20, and Z is 21. With those numerical values, Pavel summed up the numerical values of each letter in both the Mona Lisa and Caterina, the name of his mother. So, in action, his deciphering method would look like this: M, O, N, A, L, I, S, A, 11 plus 13 plus 12 plus 1 plus 10 plus 9 plus 17 plus 1 equals 74. Caterina, C, A, T, E, R, I, N, A, 3 plus 1 plus 18 plus 5 plus 16 plus 9 plus 12 plus 1 equals 65. From the sums of Mona Lisa and Caterina, Pavel used a form of symbolical arithmetics where he summed up the digits within a number. Pavel ended up with Mona Lisa equals 74, which equals 7 plus 4, which equals 11, equaling 1 plus 1, which equals 2. Caterina equaled 65, which equals 6 plus 5, equaling 11, which equals 1 plus 1, which equals 2. If you think that Pavel is simply summing up the digits to support his take, we need to consider that Da Vinci himself is historically proven to include symbols and codes within his work, and that he is someone who enjoys mathematics. Based on the similar final sums of both the name of the painting and his mother's, Pavel believed that he proved Sigmund Freud's analysis of whom the person symbolizes. Furthermore, Pavel also adds that the model referenced for the painting, the beautiful lady from Florentine, Madonna Lisa del Giocondo, might be chosen because Da Vinci sees her as the ideal representation of maternity. Da Vinci's preference for models that actually represent his vision is also noted when he searched the streets of the Borghetto district in Milan for the right representation of Judas in the Last Supper. But that's just one secret about the Mona Lisa. Other secrets, such as the possibility that the painting is a self-portrait, or the exact process of the painting itself, still remain as topics that experts are trying to solve. Number 2. Van Gogh's Last Supper. Speaking of Leonardo da Vinci, let's talk about a possible connection between the famous work of Van Gogh and the Renaissance genius. You may have seen this vibrant depiction of nighttime at a café terrace located in Arles, France, with the iconic use of colours belonging only to Van Gogh, completed in 1888, known as Café Terrace at Night. According to independent researcher Jared Baxter, this painting may have referenced Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. Before we get into the painting itself, it is important to note that faith and religion are significant aspects of Van Gogh's life. Van Gogh was surrounded by people of faith, such as his father Theodorus van Gogh, pastor of a Dutch Reformed church, and his uncle, who was also a renowned Dutch theologian and biblical scholar. His uncle even helped him to become a pastor, and Van Gogh himself even wished to preach the gospel everywhere before pursuing the arts. Near the period when Van Gogh worked on the painting, he sent a letter to his brother Theo, expressing that he felt a tremendous need for religion. So Baxter might actually be onto something here. But where can we find this supposed reference within the painting? Baxter first took a look at the sketch of the painting and compared it with the final result. He noticed religious elements such as the central figure being surrounded, referencing Jesus, a departing shadow figure referencing Judas, the glow from the lantern referencing a halo, and a cross in the background, right beside the awning. Now, Baxter even advised to keep an open possibility of being wrong when you're interpreting art. But despite his speculative take, scholars who focus on Van Gogh's studies seem to be in support of this interpretation. Number 3. Brain anatomy in the Sistine Chapel. If you would like to find more secrets and hidden symbolisms, you can bet your money that you'll find them in the Renaissance period. After taking a closer look at the frescoes adorning the roof of the Sistine Chapel, two neuroscientists, Ian Suk and Raphael Tamargo, pointed out a previously missed detail within the masterpiece of Michelangelo, specifically in one of the panels of the frescoes known as the separation of light from darkness, through an article titled Conceal Neuroanatomy in Michelangelo's Separation of Light from Darkness in the Sistine Chapel, which they published in 2010. So where should we look this time? Here. If you are confused with what you're seeing, fortunately, Suk and Tamargo were kind enough to provide us with a detailed breakdown of the hidden anatomy. With how intentional Michelangelo is, there is a small chance that this is a mere coincidence, as Michelangelo himself is known as an anatomy expert for a huge portion of his life. After the death of his former patron in 1492, the 17-year-old Michelangelo was allowed to use a room to study the anatomy of corpses in the hospital associated with the Church of Santo Spirito, in exchange for sculpting a wooden crucifix that is still placed over the high altar until this day. Michelangelo would continue to study anatomy until his older self apparently found it to be disgusting. Suk and Tamargo also compared the illustration of God's neck in Separation of Light from Darkness with Michelangelo's drawings of the neck in his other works, such as Adam from the Creation of Adam, or Ignudo from the Sacrifice of Noah, highlighting how uniquely intricate Michelangelo drew God's neck. With how intentional and knowledgeable about anatomy Michelangelo is, the case provided by Suk and Tamago is quite convincing. After all, there have been other research articles that point out anatomical illustrations that Michelangelo inserted within the panels of the Sistine Chapel, such as the one published by fellow neuroscientist F.L. Meschberger in 1990, titled An Interpretation of Michelangelo's Creation of Adam Based on Neuroanatomy, pointing out an equally accurate anatomy of the brain that shrouds God. There is even one that focuses on God's neck in Separation of Light from Darkness, written by doctors Lennart Bonderson and Anne Greth Bonderson in 2003, titled Michelangelo's Divine Goiter, which sees that the complex illustration of God's neck actually depicts a goiter, or swollen thyroid glands caused by the lack of iodine or inflammation. The depiction of goiter is also a possible case, as there was a goiter endemic in the Tuscany area where Michelangelo was born. However, Suk and Tamago expressed their disagreement with the idea, given that Michelangelo was an expert in anatomy and had plenty of opportunity to study goiter directly. He would have illustrated a more accurate goiter lesion. Regarding the different interpretations of the anatomy within Michelangelo's works, in response to both ideas, neurosurgeon and art expert Michael Salkman warns us of our brain's tendency to fill in or complete partial visual information so as to make sense of the world. He also adds that some issues in art history can never be fully adjudicated, especially in the case of Michelangelo, who despite his expertise in anatomy is said to have destroyed almost all of his anatomical records, with the surviving few depicting only musculoskeletal or topographic anatomy. Before this journey gets even more exciting with government art twists, please hit that like button. Number 4. The works of Mark Lombardi. Where other works of art hold their secrets close, waiting for a watchful eye to uncover them, the works of Mark Lombardi do the exact opposite. Through what looks like a complex web of information, Mark Lombardi has managed to name high-profile figures and institutions, all while unraveling the dark connections between them. Take the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, International Credit and Investment Corporation and First American Bank Shares, CA 1972-91. Finished in 1996 with its fourth iteration, where he uncovers the web of actors and details related to the money laundering schemes of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, the International Credit and Investment Corporation, and First American Bank. Or George W. Bush, Harken Energy, and Jackson Stevens, CA 1979-90, with its fifth iteration finished in 1999, that weaves a story about the failed energy company that George W. Bush started with $4.7 million from 50 different family members. Interestingly, the network even included foreign names such as Osama bin Laden and even former Philippines dictator Ferdinand Marcos. In his artist statement from the 90s, Lombardi stated that it all started from recent events that he was personally interested in. The network started as sketches that he made to work out the connections that maybe turn into an article about it. But as the networks expanded, Lombardi realized that they painted a very vivid story, a story of shadowy ties that had gone unnoticed. With new evidence, Lombardi would even create reiterations such as the ones made for George W. Bush, Harken Energy, and Jackson Stevens, CA 1979-90. These networks, known as narrative structures by Lombardi himself, are meant to explore the interaction of political, social, and economic forces in contemporary affairs, and were impressively sourced and pieced by Lombardi himself through syndicated news items and other published accounts. His works gained the attention of the art scene in the late 90s through exhibitions held in Houston and New York, which received numerous praises. However, Lombardi's fame was stopped short in March of 2000 following the discovery of his hanging body in his New York apartment. In a true conspiracy manner, it was ruled as suicide and filled with inconclusive details. After a sprinkler pipe damaged the fourth version of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, International Credit and Investment Corporation, and First Bank American shares CA 1972-91, Lombardi went on a 4-day sleepless binge to reconstruct the work, which journalist Patricia Goldstone, who wrote the first book about the artist, speculates to unhinged Lombardi for good. Lombardi was also noted to be paranoid in the final weeks of his life. On March 22, when he was supposed to be at the opening of the Whitney Biennial, he never showed up. It seems that Lombardi managed to set off one of the powerful names he mentioned in his works, but even after his death, powerful eyes would continue to keep watch of his works, as detailed by another author who wrote another book about him, Robert Hobbs. 5 weeks after 9/11, an FBI agent contacted the Whitney Museum of American Art, which owned the 4th version of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, International Credit and Investment Corporation, and First American Bank shares CA 1972-91 for a reproduction of his work or to see it directly at the museum. Lombardi's gallery, Pierogi, also received a phone call from a lead investigator of the 9/11 attacks to obtain information about Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda from the same work. Number 5. Abstract Expressionism, CIA propaganda. Well, this one is not exactly a conspiracy, as the evidence and confessions exist out there. Maybe this is a lesser-known secret. But what do you see when you look at this painting? For the untrained eye, the painting's splatters are a staple of Jackson Pollock, one of the painters at the front figure of American abstract expressionism that emerged in the 1940s and 50s America, which represented self-expression and spontaneity to the fullest. Take a much closer look, and you'll see that this painting is actually part of the CIA's propaganda during the Cold War. But how is this possible? Pollock was known as the rotten rebel from Russia in high school. Mark Rothko and Barnett Newman were known anarchists. To uncover the connection between abstract expressionism and the CIA, we need to take a look at how American art was first used as a political weapon even before America participated in World War II and before the CIA itself was established. According to researcher Wendy Toon, in 1941, the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, coordinated the National Defense Poster Competition for the US Army Air Corps and Treasury Department. This competition, according to then-president of MoMA, John Hay Whitney, proved the value of American artists in America's defense, particularly by setting the aesthetics of the messages spread by the government. By 1942, MoMA established the Armed Services Program, where the museum's staff would be the bridge between American artists and government agencies to develop propaganda for the war efforts. By the end of this year, Toon adds that MoMA had gained the reputation as America's leading institution in the business of forging a weapon out of art. By the end of World War II, Soviet propaganda threw a jab at the United States by calling it a culturally barren capitalist wasteland. Of course, the American government could not let that slide. In 1942, the State Department purchased 79 paintings from American modern artists for a total of $49,000 and sent them across the globe in an exhibition called Advancing American Art, which featured works from Georgia O'Keeffe and Jacob Lawrence. However, it was the American public themselves who held the sentiment of, "Is this even art?" when viewing the works bought and being exhibited by the government that put the end to the exhibition in 1947. Even President Harry Truman himself, when viewing Yasuo Kiniyoshi's painting, Circus Girl Resting, which was included in the exhibit, remarked, "If this is art, I'm a Hottentot." In the same year, the newly established CIA saw an opportunity, despite the dismay of the general public and the president himself, towards the modern American art. To prove that the West is truly about freedom and democracy, to say, sure, the public and even the president think it's bad, but at least they won't be sent to the gulag for this. They had to ensure that modern American art flourished, including abstract expressionism, which is very much about the freedom of expression, to rival the realist art of the Soviet Union. In the words of the CIA's former case officer, Donald Jameson, what we did really was to recognize the difference. It was recognized that abstract expressionism was the kind of art that made socialist realism look even more stylized and more rigid and confined than it was, and that relationship was exploited in some of the exhibitions. In 1950, the CIA, through the International Organization Division, once again partnered up with MoMA to become the hidden patron of modern American art. The CIA would need to do this in secrecy, as there was no way that Congress or the disdainful public would allow their operations. So MoMA became the perfect front for the CIA, as the higher-ups of the museum are basically friends of the agency. Take John Hay Whitney, the museum's president in 1941, who was a former member of the OSS, the CIA's predecessor. Even the man in charge of the CIA's International Organization Division, Thomas W. Brand, served as MoMA's executive secretary from 1948 until 1949. The plan went into action when MoMA took over the US Pavilion at the Venice Biennale from the State Department in 1954 to exhibit modern American art without using public funding. The role of MoMA became so crucial it might as well be a government agency. According to the United States ambassador to the Soviet Union, it was MoMA's job to let the world know that we have a cultural life and that we care about it. When it comes to abstract expressionist painters, the CIA knew that these painters have very little respect for the government. So along with MoMA and other art institutions, they carried out a play known as Long Leash, where the CIA would funnel the funding 2 or 3 degrees away from the artist and exhibitions, making sure that their involvement is untraceable. This way, the CIA can carry out their plans smoothly without the artist's knowledge. But the CIA also had partners in Europe, most notably the CCF, or Congress for Cultural Freedom, which the CIA funded in 1950 and would operate for 17 years. At its peak, the CCF had offices in 35 countries, employed dozens of personnel, published over 20 prestige magazines, held art exhibitions, owned a news and features service, organized high-profile international conferences, and rewarded musicians and artists with prizes and public performances. Making sure to use every asset in the cultural war, MoMA and the CCF would even collaborate to hold the successful abstract expressionism exhibit, The New American Painting, from 1958 to 1959, touring every major Western-friendly city, such as Basel, Milan, Berlin, Brussels, Paris, and London. To cover the CIA's order for arranging this exhibition, the MoMA's press release on this exhibit simply states that it was an answer to the numerous requests sent to the museum's international program, creating an illusion that demand for modern American art was at an all-time high. As with any cultural trend, the prominence of abstract expressionism would naturally decline by the 1960s, when minimalism and pop art took the spotlight. The murky relationship between abstract expressionism and its patron, its modern-day Renaissance aristocrat, the CIA, would be unraveled in the following decades through articles that highlight this unlikely connection and even the confessions of former CIA officers that were related to this operation. So, what did you think about these theories? There are a lot more secrets hidden within and around the arts that we see every day. So be sure to let us know what other theories you would like us to cover down in the comment section. While you're at it, don't forget to leave a like or even subscribe. But until then, we'll let the secrets be secrets for now.